Oceans quiet at your flame. Every star you place to shine. All creation calls you divine. King above all kings you reign. Breaking chains and ending pain. Mercy flows like endless streams, lifting souls with holy beams.
Hello and welcome in Holy Angels Crusade. And our topic for today is about heavenly hosts. 100 years ago, when G.K. Chesterton assessed how modern people view the unseen realm of spiritual beings, what the Bible calls the heavens, they call it heaven. He surmised to the modern man, the heavens are actually before the earth. The explanation is simple. He is standing on his head, which is a very weak pedestal to stand on. In other words, we've inverted the order of things, making what we can see with our own eyes the foundation of our worldview. We're upside down. Unfortunately, the intervening century has done little to right modern for man, or free him from the cramped confines of materialism. Confusion regarding to the heavenly hosts, those celestial beings, often called, well, they are angels. Yes, those celestial being they call it angels. So like example is Archangel Michael, Saint Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, etc. Anyway, it is still in the topic of riots about those angels. So we need to regain an enchanted view of the spiritual realm to get our feet back to the bedrock of the scriptures and get our head into the heavens, so-called. But it's worth asking, why bother about spiritual being at all? Why we bother about spiritual being? We are all about bothering and being distracted about these spiritual beings. As we all know, they are just all at our surrounding. First and foremost, they exist. The throne of God has woven celestial being into the fabric of reality. Therefore, as his works that display his glory, they ought to be studied by all who delighted in them. Okay, again, the triune God has woven celestial being into the fabric of reality. Therefore, as his works that display his glory, they ought to be studied by all who delight in them. Psalm chapter 111 verse 2. Second, modern man lives in misenchanted society. Not truly disenchanted, because no amount of angry atheist, secular assumptions, or evolutionary propaganda can actually strip God's words of its wonder and magic. As a result, many are largely allergic to anything beyond the material. The universe of modern science is too cramped to feed the singing, fighting stars. Job chapter 38 verse 5 to 7 and Judge chapter 5 verse 20. Even in the church, we tend to be modern, skeptical of much we can see or touch, living as functional materialists. So, one great need of our generation is to see the unseen realm again, God and angels, heaven and hell, sin, and souls. We need to awaken to what's real. Thus, the heavens shall be studied as a source of wonder that fuels love for both Creator and His creations. The map of the heavens are realm of mystery. It's all about mystery. It's a realms full of mystery. That's the map of heavens. The Bible does not exhaustively describe the celestial one. They make sense. The scriptural story is not about them. It is preeminently about the truth of God, both the main character and the glorious author, and his dealing with man. Still, the heavenly hosts are more than extras or characters, and the scripture yields a substantial character sketch of them. So, what part do the heavenly hosts play in God's cosmic history? The question is, what part do the heavenly hosts play in God's cosmic history? Kind of hard to tell and to answer. What part of heavenly hosts that God cosmic history play? Well, they have 7 major rules. Number 1, the king's heralds. That's the God whose rule in a cosmic history. Number 1 is a king. He is a king herald. The scripture most often designates celestial as angels. But angel is a job description like messenger or herald, not a kind of being like a man or star. Men, spirits, and God himself are called angels at different times in scripture. So it's more accurate to use names like celestial or stars, spiritual creature or creatures, and heavenly host to refer to these beings. Example, Psalm chapter 89 verse 5 to 7, and Job chapter 38 verse 5 to 7, and Hebrews chapter 1 verse to 40. Chapter 1 verse 14. In the pages of a holy writ, spiritual beings are closely connected with, and at a time indistinguishable from the stars and the heavens. That said, these awesome characters often function as angels, heralds, who proclaims and explain divine words. For example, they participate in delivering the law to God people. Deuteronomy chapter 33 verse 2. And later, they proclaim the stunning news of great joy. Luke chapter 12 verse 8 to 15. In the broader sense, this divine heralding role might be summarized by saying that spiritual creatures bridge heaven and earth, those angels. So one of the host God cosmic history host play is he play king heralds. Number 2, king guard. The celestial guard, what is holy? The seraphim guard God thrones. And the cherubim comprise his numerous secret service, protecting Eden and Edenic symbols of the tabernacle, the temple, and the Ark of the Covenant. Genesis chapter 3 verse 24 and Exodus chapter 24 verse 17 to 22. Yet, guarding the throne room includes more than just bearing men from it. These starry sent angels also prepare men to be in the presence of the king, and he ushers them in. Isaiah chapter 6 verse 6 to 7. Thus, the same being that barred Adam from the garden temple with flaming swords whose welding words of welcome at the garden tongue of the second Adam Luke chapter 24 verse 1 to 12. The same being that guarded the gates to the tree of life ushers Mary into the presence of the Lord of life when the vile gate was torn, ascended, and set aside. John chapter 20 verse 11 to 18. The celestial are the king's God. Okay, those angels, they are they call it celestial beings, which is they are also the king guards. Number 3, king ministers. The writer of Hebrew offers one of the few narrative passages dealing with spiritual creatures. During this sermon, he explained that angels are ministering spirits who serve for the sake of those who are inherit salvation. Hebrews chapter 1 verse 14. In other words, the heavenly hosts minister to the saint. The scope of this service is staggering. We see them guard the saint. Psalm chapter 91 verse 11. Render them fireproof. Render them fireproof. Daniel chapter 3 verse 28. Slay their enemies. 2 Kings chapter 19 verse 35 to 37. Feed them. 1 King chapter 19 verse 5 to 8. Surround them with warriors. 2 Kings chapter 6 verse 17. Shield them from the teeth of lions. Daniel chapter 6 verse 22. Demolish prison for them. Demolish prisons for them. Acts chapter 5 verse 17 to 21. Guide them. Matthew chapter 2 verse 1 to 12 and Acts chapter 8 verse 26. And join them in a worshipful triumphs of God. Revelation chapter 5 verse 8 to 14 and 7 verse 11 to 12. Given this litany of aid, who knows what daily service God's heavenly power surrender to the people? Render to you. They minister to the king's people. Number 4, the King Council. The Lord Yahweh reigns over all the works of his hands, and as a king of all, he holds court. Certain celestial ones sit as a member of the court or divine council. Psalm chapter 82 verse 1. Scripture refers to these creatures with the same word, gods or Elohim, used to describe as a Yahweh. Yahweh himself calls them gods, son of God and son of the Most High. See Psalm chapter 82 verse 1 and 6 to 7. However, we must remember that the basic metaphysical divide that runs between creatures and creator and creatures, the triune of God is utterly unique, incomparable, self-defined, and not dependent on any created being to be who he is. Exodus chapter 3 verse 14 and 20 verse 3. Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 4. Spiritual powers, though they be gods, remain clearly in the creaturely category. There are maybe many Elohim, but there is only one Yahweh. Again, there are maybe many Elohim, but there is only one Yahweh. Only one Yahweh, but there is a lot of Elohim. Yet the Lord chose to make this lesser divine being responsible for doing justice and ruling in his representatives. Though they often fail to do so. Psalms 82 verse 2 to 4. Moses explained that this system of divine delegation, noting that the Most High divided up mankind and allotted the nations. According to the number of the sons of God, Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 8, for his own good pleasures, the Lord freely chooses to use what Tolkien dubs a theocracy, hierarchy, to exercise dominion over his creation. The stars are the king core. Number 5, king host. There are also his celestial army waging war for the Lord. When Elisha's servants and granting the ability to see this host, he beheld the vast of Calvary, an inferior force mounted in flaming steeds and commanding chariots of fires. 2 Kings chapter 6 verse 17. This is a good host, but not a safe one. But one of these warriors can single-handedly slay 185,000 men. 2 Kings chapter 19 verse 35 to 37. At least part of this stellar army is under the command of the Archangel Michael. Okay, stellar army is under command of the Archangel Michael, who vanquishes the dragon horde with his host. Revelation chapter 12 verse 7 to 12. But Jesus himself is the grand general, telling Peter he could summon 12 legions of angels with the one word. Oh my God, Jesus Christ can able to summon 12 legions of angels in just one word. Matthew chapter 26 verse 53. Many kings in history have claimed to command armies that outnumber the stars, but only the King of Kings himself commands the army of stars. Number 6, the king attendance. King attendance. War is not the only way they serve Christ. He is the central person in the scripture. The author becomes character, and as such, it is fitting that the celestial adore and attend to him. Spiritual creatures flock around Jesus, fixated on him through the highs and lows of his earthly ministry. They heralded his birth. Luke chapter 1 verse 26 to 31 and 2 verse 8 to 14. And Matthew chapter 1 verse 20 to 25. They attended to him at the temptation that framed him or his ministry. Matthew chapter 4 verse 11 and Luke chapter 22 verse 43. They announced his resurrection. Matthew chapter 28 verse 5 to 6. And they beheld his ascension and enthronement. Acts chapter 1 verse 10 to 11. The spiritual powers are first-hand witnesses to the divine comedy of the gospel, heralds of his cosmic victory and harbingers of eucatastrophe. They eternally adorn the Lamb who was slain and stand ever eager at his beck and call. Revelation chapter 5 verse 11 to 12 and Matthew chapter 26 verse 53. And of course, the last one is the king car. The king choir. Mostly importantly, the celestial one delight in the trial of God. Over and over, Scriptures pulls back the veil on the unseen realm and what is revealed. What is revealed? Revealed. Sorry. What is revealed? What is revealed in there? Spiritual creatures relentlessly rejoicing in their Maker. Consider the fierce delight of the seraphim, whose endless and unparalleled cry of holy, holy, holy shook that temple to its foundation. Isaiah chapter 6 verse 1 to 6. Or the angelic host heralding to sheep and shepherd alike the glory of God in the gladness of man. Luke chapter 2 verse 13 to 14. Or the myriad of myriads and thousand of thousands before the throne, pouring forth sevenfold praise and filling heaven with their happy song. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Revelation chapter 5 verse 11 to 12. Truly the heavens declare the glory of God, even among the innumerable stars. God is most glorified in His creatures when they are most satisfied in Him. To summarize this character sketch, unbent spiritual being mediate and celebrate the sovereignty of their Lord. Creation seems to be delegation to the true and true. God will do nothing simply of Himself which can be done by creature. The heavenly host joyfully enact the King will, often on behalf of the saints. The behalf of saints. Psalm chapter 103 verse 20. So what do we make of all of this? What do we make of all of this? How should the celestial affect my life or our life? Getting our heads into the heavens should kindle enchantment, worship, and wonder. Enchantment, worship, and wonder. First, biblical visions of spiritual creatures can help re-enchant reality. Okay, dispelling what Lewis calls the evil enchantment of worldliness. After all, anyone who excludes spirits from their sight has, at best, an impoverished vision of reality. That is why creatures like Dante in Divine Comedy, Lewis in the Ransom Trilogy, and Tolkien in the Silmarillion bent all this poetic effort to create worlds that unveil the magic and mystery of the heavenly hosts. Yes, that's they are. Dante, Lewis, Tolkien, they want to unveil the magic and mystery of the heavenly host. Second, the heavenly host should fuel worship. Second, the heavenly host should fuel worship. This holy champion who adore the triune of God serve as a mimetic models for the saints, fueling our love for God through their praises. Yes, worshiping and praises to the Lord. This singing assembly constantly participate in the polyphonic and then polyspecies. They praising God with voice and instrument, with this instrument. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 22 and the Revelation chapter 5 verse 8 and 8 verse 2. They adore the harmony of triune of God and conduct the music of the spheres. And when we worship, we join them in the cosmic joy. Worship is never an indoor affair. Finally, an awareness of the celestial one should serve to cultivate wonder at their Maker. Our God is the God of gods. The Psalm chapter 136, verse 2. The celestial are beautiful because He is, glorious because He is, holy because He is. The more we can get our head into heaven, the more we will marvel at the maker of the heaven and earth. And that is all about the heavenly hosts.